Hey folks, it's Dr. Rowe. Hope you're well. I'm going to do a very short video for you here on a subject which I think, and you see the handshake going on there in the background. I think a lot of you might relate to this. If you're out there and you're in business, particularly if you're looking at buying properties and you're out putting offers out into the marketplace and you've got a deal going through, or you've sort of been wrestling with this deal. And, it's one that I face as a property investor myself. In fact, we've got it going on live at the moment on one of the deals that we're looking at. And I thought it'd be quite a good subject to talk about live to give you an idea of my approach to this. Now, look, ultimately, this is just my belief system. You don't have to take it. You can just ignore it, or you might say, actually, some of that kind of makes sense. And I'm feeling a little bit this, so this is really helpful to me. And if it is, great. If it's not, park it and don't use it. But hopefully you'll take a few tips from this that you might at least be able to use to consider. So we're talking here about a situation whereby you are going through a deal and you're caught at the point where maybe the deal hasn't got to where you want it to get to, or all of a sudden some things have come up and it's like, do I walk away? Do I stay in this deal? I think that's the key question that we need to tackle here. So let me just share this with you. So question number one is, have you approached this deal from the view of it being a win-win situation? So when people are going through a deal, and I've experienced this and it's happened recently, one of our deals, there's a shift. Maybe the seller of the property starts to get nervous, or the circumstances change. Maybe the market conditions change. Maybe you've had a valuation done and it's changed your view on the property in terms of what it's worth, or something's come up that's made you a little bit more cautious and you're left there thinking, do I do this deal or not? So the first question is to go back and say, is this a win-win? Has the offer that I've put in become a win-win for me and for them? In other words, do I win and do they win something from it? Equally, if the circumstances as they are now have changed and I go down the other route, maybe it's a down valuation, or there's some extra work to be done, maybe there's damp on the property, or something's come up in the searches and you go, I'm going to have to compromise a little bit on where I was going into this. If it still produces a win-win for you and the longer term view outweighs the short term inconvenience, then you know what? Go for it. It's the same thing like, well, there's an extra 2.5, 3 grand's worth of cost, but we weren't expecting. Some people go, I'm out of here. And they walk. The handshake breaks. Thank you very much. We're gone. Boom. But what if that property is producing, say, £1,000 a month cash flow? Then the 2.5 to 3 grand extra cost is really only the equivalent of, say, 3 months worth of additional cash flow. You would have had to wait 3 extra months to recover that money back. I don't know if this is making any sense. And if you're holding a property for 5, 10, 15 years, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot. But on the other hand, if it was like 45K's worth of work that suddenly came to, or something happened in the valuation, you go, oh, blimey, to recover that, it's going to take this much longer, then it may not be such a win for you. That's number one. Number two, has there been other things that have come up? Are you feeling resistance? Are you feeling like a bit of a block and it's frustration? You're thinking, oh, okay, you know what? This isn't just the first sign. There's been another sign, another sign, another sign, another sign. Maybe you had 2, 3, 4 signs, all of which have got a little bit more magnified. And each time, the first time round, we'll overcome that. Second time round, we'll overcome that. And then it's like, wait a minute, there's another thing come up here. There's another thing come up. And you start to feel frustration because you're wondering, why do these things keep coming up? And that's the point where personally, I will often ask the question, are we pursuing this too hard? Conversation happened today on one of the deals we're looking at. Am I missing the signs? Is this the universe sending me a message to say, double check this, double check that? So I look for resistance, both sides, but particularly I look around and go, okay, there's a difference between me being persistent and getting a job done and overcoming obstacle versus constantly a block on a particular deal. Next one is, does it still meet your objective? If the deal changes, for the sake of argument, maybe you can't rent out one of the rooms which you originally thought and it's a house of multiple occupation, the cash flow is going to go down. Does it still meet your objective? Does it still get you to a certain financial target? Could it still work? Or is it just not going to get you there? Had you planned to flip the deal, but now the market's changed, you can't flip it, so you're going to hold it. Is that still going to work? So these are really important questions to ask. If I change it, or if the circumstances change, or the blocks that are happening pivot me to a different direction, do I still meet my objectives? And the last one is, what if? And that's like, what if I do this? What if I completely change my strategy altogether and go in a different direction? What if I walk away from this? What other options do I have? Literally had this conversation half an hour ago. Okay, so if we don't do this deal, there's 300 grand going into this, right? If we're not going to do that, where could we place that money? What could it do? Could it do 2 other deals? Could it do another similar deal? Could it do a bigger project? So the what if is, what if I don't do this? I've had this resistance. It's still meeting my objectives, but not as well as I wanted it to. Park it for a minute. All right, let me look at what my other choices are. What if I did that? What if I did that? What if I do a joint venture over here? What if I left the money there and went out looking for something a bit cleaner and easier to do, because I felt a lot of resistance to this. So there is quite a bit to process here. But I would say to you, if you're doing a lot of deals and you've got lots of offers out there, the what if becomes easier. If you're only ever doing one deal at any one time and you're not looking at other options, then when you go to look at the what ifs, there's nothing there. That's going to make it tougher. So having more choices makes it easier to make a decision over there. So the more desperate you are and the more emotionally invested you are in the deal, the tougher it's going to be to get away and also to do the what if conversation. That's it. 4 things to consider when you're faced with a challenge. Should you stay in the deal or not? Dr. O signing out. See you. Oh, by the way, remember to subscribe. Remember to follow us and to go find us on Instagram and on Facebook, and maybe come and join me on some of my free web classes.